laughing, but we're live.
All right, what's up, everybody? Franco here with Frank Analysis. I'm here with my brother and sister, Steve Poikonen and Glory Jones, both from
Ew.
Slow News Day. We're here to talk about something really sad that just happened. Commander X was kidnapped from Mexico. We're going to talk, Steve and Glory are going to explain more of that and what the movement's doing right now to help free him. But first, guys, let everybody know how you're doing, first of all. And second of all, who is Commander X?
I'm doing.
um, man, I'm a little shook
Mm.
over all of this. I'll be perfectly honest, man. I was not expecting a week before I leave to go join up with the Home Run for Julian tour and start shooting my first documentary film that I would be like right in the thick of another advocacy and defense campaign for another kidnapped political prisoner who had already had refugee status, asylum status, who had had his asylum rights illegally violated by a hostile Western government. But here we are. And so to let people kind of know, Commander X um, is a gentleman named Christopher Doyen, who started to gain notoriety as the homeless hacker here in Santa Cruz. In 2010, Santa Cruz City started rolling out all of these draconian measures against homeless people. X, along with Keith McHenry from Food Not Bombs, helped organize a 30-day sleep in at the Santa Cruz courthouse. A number of people were ticketed for that. This culminated in a publicly announced beforehand thousands of computers involved direct disruption to service attack on a City of Santa Cruz website that took place on a Saturday for a half an hour, causing no harm whatsoever, but simply to prove the point that, hey, look, you can stop treating the homeless this way, or we can get to you. And that sort of sparked the legend of Commander X, because he spent the next 10 years eluding the federal government, being involved in high profile anonymous operations that we can get into throughout the show if we have time for or we need to. And in 2019 was walked across the US border into Mexico
With an upside down American flag,
Mm.
Operation Golden Eagle.
and that's where he applied for refugee status and asylum and was granted refugee status, and the application for asylum process began. We had him on a number of times throughout this whole scene, and in January we gave him what he thought was going to be his last interview. He popped back up about 5 weeks ago, healthy, ready to get back at least advocacy, not activism.
Mm.
He was retired from that, but at least advocacy. And we had, if he brought his show back, Glory and I were on most of them.
Yeah,
um,
we were on for his first one along with Mark Lubers, and then he also had Steve and Keith on, and he had Steve on, and he had Keith on again. And one of the things that and then he also had a kind of a big panel on Julian Assange with me, Misty, Natalia, who was the woman who helped take care of him in Mexico, and Kendra, so who runs a Denver Free Assange. So and that was the second to last show he did before he was kidnapped and illegally renditioned. And one of the big things as well that he did when he came back and really was kind of starting to get back into the game was he helped bring Wi-Fi to the Freedom Camp in Santa Cruz so that they could broadcast from there. They could broadcast from there all of Keith's activism and the police treatment of the homeless. So that's one of the last things that he did before he got kidnapped. And he also had plans to do a lot more as well. He wanted to get Tevpo back on, who was one of the organizers in the Ferguson uprisings, and he helped Commander X a lot with Op Ferguson. And he also wanted to do some advocacy for Anonymous Palestine, because at the time you had the ethnic cleansing in Sheikh Jarrah and the escalating war on Gaza. And then he also wanted to do just a lot of advocacy for the homeless in Santa Cruz, because that's where he kind of began his activism. And he wasn't in the greatest of health, but he was getting a lot better than he was at the beginning of this year. And then, a week and 8 days ago now, in the midst of all of that, he just gets kidnapped and illegally renditioned to the United States. He's currently in Santa Rita jail in solitary confinement. He's allowed out of his cell 1 hour every 48 hours. The Mexican and U.S. government both violated his human rights and his political asylum and his status as a refugee. And essentially what the U.S. did was what they want to do to Julian Assange. And what the Mexican government did, or at least Mexican officials did, was allow this to happen and give their approval, because it was a U.S. embassy official involved in the initial kidnapping of X, and that's coming from testimony of the gate guard of the community he lived in. So with that, we know that there's involvement from some Mexican officials. So it's gross to think that he was so proud to get asylum too. Like, I was looking through some of his old tweets to help with the tweet storm, and he was really proud to be granted asylum. He said, like, yes, it's great to not have the Gestapo chasing you all the time. Like, oh my God, look at this Wikipedia list of people granted asylum. I'm there with Karl Marx. And it was just little stuff like that. And I mean, now that's been completely violated, and he's in jail in Dublin, California.
So what do the stories say? Like the witnesses, like people's testimony, how exactly did he get kidnapped?
According to our mutual friend and human rights attorney in Mexico City, and the woman who had been arranging places for him to stay and led the Friends of X support committee, when they talked to both the landlady and the gate guard, we found out a number of things. So according to them, the landlady was approached by two men in uniform who spoke regional Mexican Spanish but showed U.S. credentials. They didn't have any paperwork. She told them to kick rocks. She goes inside and tells X what happened. X immediately gets on the phone with the woman who organized the support committee, talks to her, lets her know what's going on, talks to the human rights attorney. While he's on the phone with the human rights attorney, the two agents that had been told to kick rocks had come back, this time in plainclothes. They hopped the wall into the community and broke into the house and were screaming at X to identify himself. This is what the human rights attorney has told me that she overheard. They grab him, hang up the phone, and start dragging him out after collecting, obvious things like phone, computer, whatever they could find in reach, paperwork. And as they're dragging him out, a U.S. embassy official is at the gate talking to the gate guard. Gate guard can positively identify that this man showed him U.S. embassy credentials. From there, we don't really know where he was taken, because it turns out the Mexican authorities at both extortion and kidnapping and immigration lied their asses off when they were talking to X's friends. So the process by which he was renditioned seems to be shady even for a regular rendition operation. I don't know if I answered the question or not.
Yeah. So he's supposed to be retired, right? He's just an advocate now. He was granted asylum. How is he a threat now? Like what do you think was the motivation for this kidnapping that happened for him?
I mean, well, at least what we think was a part of the motivation was just the not only the vendetta that the FBI had against him, because he very clearly and openly and braggingly so evaded the FBI. There's also the fact that the Biden-Harris administration is fomenting a continuing war on information activists, on hacktivists, on leaktivists. This is part of, Marty G's fundraiser getting taken down. This is part of DDoS secrets getting taken down. The ongoing persecution of Julian Assange. The recent news of Barrett Brown, who was another original Anon, receiving an unsealed indictment while he was trying to get asylum in the UK.
Oh no, it's sealed. He hasn't even seen the charges yet.
Shit,
it's still a
my
secret
bad.
indictment at this point.
I said unsealed, my bad. Sealed. He can't see them. Yeah, and also, and this goes back to when Biden, which is vice president, and the Obama administration had a war on whistleblowers, during which we saw Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden, two prominent examples that fell victim to that. So there's that. And then there's also the fact that this rhetoric against cybercrime and cyber terrorism has been taken up by a lot of Western governments, even going all the way up to the WEF, as and their strategic intelligence series is this really ugly ass wheel that has like a bunch of little pointers on it. On it, they identify the need to tackle cybercrime as part of an international security, and also how to take on something like hacktivists. They specifically identify hacktivists as, something that they need to deal with. And this also comes off the heels of the crackdown they want to do on cybercrime, laid out after the Colonial Pipeline and SolarWinds and JBS hacks, which were, feds straight up. So there's it's just a lot of, that's what I believe the grander motivations are, because to our knowledge, he's being charged with the 2011 DDoS attacks in Santa Cruz. But those are like, that's a pretty small charge for them to go all the way, for them to try and, kidnap someone from political asylum. So I think it's part of a grander scheme here.
Yeah, this is also coming shortly after Biden's new anti-terrorism initiative. So I'm pulling that up right now on screen for people to see. Let me scroll down over here so people can see this. This is, a lot of people retweeted this, including a lot of people in the MCSC network. And people were like, we told you, like after what happened with January 6th, we were like, they were classifying people as domestic terrorism, as domestic terrorists. That opens the door for things like this to happen. So here's Ford Fisher. He writes, Joe Biden's new anti-terrorism initiative classifies anarchist, violent extremists that oppose all forms of capitalism, cooperative globalization, and governing institutions which are perceived as harmful to society as domestic violent extremists. And here is the unclassified document. Yeah. So do you guys see a connection here with this?
Also? Yeah, that sounds like some pretty shared beliefs. And especially Commander X was a very open and a very opinionated took a very opinionated and open stance on all of those things. So of course he falls within that. Well, and all of us fall within that too. Like all of our rights are going to be violated. All of asylum is open to be violated now. That's why we say stuff like we are all Assange, because these cases, even though these cases, when they target individuals, they really target all of us. That's why we went so hard with We Are All Assange, so we don't get, more cases like that. So we don't get the Commander X's or the Mumia Abdul-Jamals, who's been in prison, whose prison sentence basically dwarfs that of Commander X and Julian Assange. I hate to say it, but
1986. He's been locked up for 35 years.
So I just look at
real quick though.
Yeah.
While we're talking about the countering domestic terrorism strategy, the narrative is going to be this is the Biden Justice Department cracking down on dangerous white supremacists, which the FBI has said pose the greatest threat to America.
Right.
If you read the document itself, there is absolutely nothing singling out political ideology, right wing, left. No, they're going to point at the perceived bad guys, whoever they are in the moment, and then pass sweeping, all encompassing domestic terrorism legislation. But because people are going to be distracted by the whole January 6th narrative, they're going to cheer this on. The amount of applause that you see from the left anytime the state enacts violence on someone that they don't like, it's like their entire ideology goes away, just so they can be like, finally, somebody got theirs too.
A lot of it has to do with team sports.
Vengeance-based activism doesn't work.
It's because they choose team sports, right? It's like, they view people on the right, or the people who are there at January 6th, as people being on the other team, even though the elites, the predator class, they don't see it that way. Like I was showing the document earlier, but just to let people know even further, they have here racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, animal rights, environmental violent extremists, abortion related violent extremists. Like they can, like we were there for Force to Vote, right? In addition to when we were there for Assange, there were more police there than there were on January 6th, weren't there, Steve?
I tell this story, I guess, frequently, and I apologize for that if you've heard it. But yeah, the difference between standing on the other side of the street from the Capitol, merely the other side of the street, so exact same jurisdiction on Capitol Hill, at the office building catty corner from the back front side of the Capitol that faces the Washington Monument. From there were 40 of us, maybe, and we were in a horseshoe surrounded by double the amount of cops. There were snatch and grab vans that were parked like at the corners. They had us more or less completely cordoned off for 40 people that were trying to talk to their representatives about something as like minor as forcing a floor vote on the House for legislation that has overwhelming approval. And there were double the amount of cops for that. You go 48 hours from that event, and there are now cops nowhere to be seen, especially if you saw in December the amount of cops that were on the Capitol steps. Those cops are nowhere to be seen. And now the ones that are there are letting people in, opening the gate for people, pulling back the fence that was blocking off protesters from getting onto the grounds of the Capitol, opening those gates, opening the door, waving people into the rotunda. That's it. And then we've got Tucker Carlson and Reverb and whatever these other outlets are that are doing decent work just by getting FOIA requests and asking questions about who's been indicted on this. There are a number of people that are unnamed or unlisted co-conspirators they will never see the inside of a courtroom as a defendant because they've got freaking FBI clearance. We're finding out more and more and more every day now, Franco, what we said when we were there. Crap, this looks like another FBI psyop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was crazy cuckoo bird conspiracy. But here's the other thing: nobody was having any of us that were on the ground there on as like a guest to tell our side of what we saw, because we were only going to say, I can only speak to what I saw. This is what it looked like. I'm working with my colleagues who were at different spots on the ground that day to complete a full picture. Nobody wants to hear that because they just want to hear the narrative that right-wing domestic terrorists pose the greatest threat to this fragile democracy in the history of ever always, and now we've got to cede all of our liberty and all of our rights and all of the things that allow us to, you know, have constitutional protections, freedom of movement, stuff like that, in order to make sure that a 38-year-old skinny idiot with a buffalo horn mask doesn't wander into Nancy Pelosi's office and take a selfie.
Yeah, because it's a narrative that they're most comfortable accepting. Like they're more comfortable accepting that it's another team that is committing a bunch of evil acts and that they're the only problem, not that the elite, the predator class, our government is trying to put us against each other, even though we're all the target. And during the summer, I was just
While
gonna say
we're on that subject too, you keep talking because I actually want to pull up something that Commander X himself said about that too.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Glory, like if you remember in the summer last year when there were vans that were kidnapping people.
Oh yeah.
So
I got detained myself.
So can you tell us a bit more about like what you saw like on the ground during the Black Lives Matter protest that you were attending last year and how?
It was the most, it was some of the most like disgusting displays of just fascistic violence, state violence I've seen in at least, you know, my lifetime, just because I honestly haven't been in this that long. But I mean, yeah, it was like, oh god, there's like so much images that are just glued to my head. Like one of my friends had his legs bashed in with a riot shield, of all things, like because they use non-lethal weaponry now, so now they just bash people with whatever non-lethal weaponry they have. In that case, it was a riot shield. I've been detained myself, and you know, one time I was actually caught by the convo couch, in which they were detaining us. They were taking photos of us on their mobile phones. All of this illegal, by the way, and they were also searching through our things just to literally keep tabs on us. During the Echo Park protest, they came during like not the middle of the night, but the late night, and they would have hours long standoffs with us in, you know, cold LA at night. And the next day after that, they came back and they arrested around 182 people, 9 of them being journalists. They've also raided the Black Unity Camp twice, which was around. It was after the summer. I think it was around September, October, but there was a homeless camp called Black Unity right outside City Hall in downtown Los Angeles, and they raided it at like 4 a.m. in the morning. And then when another one was set up, they immediately raided that one again, during which they beat up and detained another journalist, Sean Becker Carmichael, and they actually reinvigorated some of his internal bleeding doing so. And there's so much more to the endless amounts of rubber bullet wounds and rubber coated steel bullet wounds. The wounds from the little pepper spray pellets. I don't bother telling what they're called because people know what I'm talking about. The headaches from the LRAD, the so much more stuff. All the tear gas, all the pepper spray, all the macing, people getting run over by cars. I mean, literally in the action I was at in Hollywood for Breonna Taylor, year anniversary of Breonna Taylor's death, we did a march in Hollywood, and protesters got got run over by LAPD. Luckily, they're okay, but they drove through a crowd of us and ran us over. And there's just so many more instances of that. Miami PD over here, they ain't that much better either. They just got a protest bill backing them, so they don't even need to be all that violent. They're just like, oh, what's up? You can't do shit. We got the law behind us, literally. So I could go on and on. It's so bad. And then I was actually able to find the tweet as well of what Commander X had to say specifically about police brutality, kind of the discrepancy in treatment between Black Lives Matter and Black liberation activists and the people organizing the Stop the Steal rally. So can I share screen?
Yeah.
Okay, no, you disabled it.
I did. Let me enable it.
Yeah.
I thought I did. Let me see.
Yeah, I tried to click it and it said host disabled share.
Oh yeah, okay. You should be able to now.
There we go. Okay. Where is it? Okay, there we go. I found it. Share computer sound. All right, we're gonna watch this here.
Oh, nice.
Because a lot of Black friends of mine that I treasure, that I've had ever since Ferguson, have been in contact with me these last several days with regard to this whole thing on the Capitol. And I want to say to people who are listening to this, what I'm hearing again and again from my Black friends is we don't want cops to go out there and beat and shoot these terrible white people. We don't want them to treat them like they treat us. We want them to treat us like they treat them.
Yes.
And I want to make this absolutely clear because I owe these friends of mine, because I have a platform they don't have, and I have a voice that they don't have, as white a cracker as I might be. And they are all saying this universally. We are not calling for the cops to fucking beat and shoot these people. That is not the solution. The solution is that they should be treating everyone like they treat these white people.
Do you fucking hear that, Blue Check America?
Yes.
Do you fucking hear that, Rose Twitter? Do you fucking hear that, you little fucking pussy-ass, progressive, fucking fake woke-ass
Yes.
shit? Do you fucking hear that?
Fucking hear that. And it's not just
I want to add just
friends saying it, my ass saying it too. So
We fucking
And
heard it.
Ferguson was really important to him too, and yeah, that Ferguson was really important to him, and we're glad that we were able to get in contact with Tefbo and get him to help boost the story and with that, because
and hopefully we'll be able to have a sit down with him here before too long, working on that currently.
I wanted to show people this because this has been a work in progress for decades and decades and decades. And you can look even recent in history. This is an article I always refer people to. Let me zoom out here so people can see this. 7 ways the Obama administration has accelerated police militarization. They always try to find a way to manufacture people's consent so that they can militarize the police, so that they can label certain people as domestic terrorists, and then they manufacture people's consent for that. And if you read this article, which I'll link in the chat for you guys to read, you will see that Biden, a lot of these things that the government did to militarize the police were Biden's pet projects, and now we have him as president. He's going to keep all these political prisoners as political prisoners. And now we have a new one with Commander X. So one of the things that you guys are doing to try to raise awareness is you guys have this Facebook page now. I mean, Twitter page. Free Commander X, which
we do have a Fedbook page too.
A Fedbook page?
Yes.
I've never heard that before. Fedbook page, that's a good one.
we have a Fedbook page for, you know, if you only speak Spanish and you just so happen to have a Fedbook only, and that's your only way to communicate, which hopefully it's not. We do have a page.
Well, if you guys still have, like the audience members out there, if you guys still have a Facebook page, go ahead and follow that Facebook page. But here's the Twitter page, and apparently it's been suspended, right? For a couple, it's in Twitter jail right now. So what exactly happened with that?
Fucking nothing.
Its existence. That's it.
We started the account.
So just the existence.
Yeah, no, I can show you too. Okay. I could show you exactly what happened. So, you know, created the Free X account. And then going to, you know, make the morning rounds on the Twitters and start really boosting this tweet storm, because we're gonna have a hashtag Free Commander X tweet storm at at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
6 p.m. Pacific time. 9 p.m. East Coast time, so not in 90 minutes.
I thought it was 3.
No.
Huh. Okay.
6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. East Coast time. And so I'm going to promote that. And what happens is I get this little notice. We've temporarily limited some of your features. So can only DM followers of the account. But I can't like anything, can't retweet anything, can't tweet anything. Only can DM people that are following the account. Can't DM people who just have like open DMs. And so I went to the email to see if there's any reason why. Nope, we got Whitney webbed.
Yep. This is the same message they gave me when I talked about ivermectin.
Yeah.
They suspended me for like
locked
12
for
hours.
Violating the miscellaneous Twitter rules, specifically for blank.
Specifically for blank. Yeah, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
That's wow. That's insane, guys. But it's not unbelievable.
Getting Whitneyed. Got the full web on that. Here's an example of what you did wrong.
And this
anyway.
And it was right as we created the account too, and because especially it's important that we have this specific account up, because X has a lot of enemies even within the anonymous community, unfortunately. So it's important that there is you know, kind of an account that people can look to for updates that come directly from his friends like me and Steve and Lubers, or his legal team, or the people who took care of him in Mexico. So yeah, pretty much. But there's also a website too, freecommanderx.org. You can go there as well.
And it's got the link to the GoFundMe account, which GoFundMe yanked this morning. We somehow advocating for the defense fund of a political prisoner violated GoFundMe's rules, and they suspended that fundraiser. The ability for us, this is exactly what happened with Marty G too.
And to go more into specifics with that as well, I looked at the kind of, you know, behavioral conduct that's required to have a GoFundMe fundraiser, and number 9 of that list was that hold up, let me pull it up so I can read it real quick here. Number 9 on that list was that we can't have fundraisers for the legal defense of alleged crimes associated with hate, violence, harassment, bullying, discrimination, terrorism, or intolerance of any kind, blah, 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 blah. So the unfortunate fact of the matter is that to the establishment and to the empire and to corporations, Commander X is very much kind of guilty of I'm not gonna say it, but like, cyber harassment and, terrorism, like how they think we're all terrorists. So
It can be applied
that's
so
kind of,
loosely. Like when you
yeah.
say like incite violence, also like you can easily classify what Bernie was saying when he was talking about a revolution as like inciting violence, right?
Hmm.
Or what any politician says. They were like, yeah, we're gonna fight to the White House. Like that can easily be interpreted as like inciting violence. It's so loose. Before we head off here, guys, what are some ways, in addition to following these social media pages, and what are ways that people can help with this movement in freeing Commander X?
Well, we're working on getting a new support fund up. That's probably not going to be on GoFundMe, but we're working on getting one up. So if you could support that, only if you can. If you're stretched, please don't. We know there's a lot of fundraisers that demand attention as well. You can also write to him. I don't know the exact address, but I can try and pull it up here real quick, just while I'm talking. You can write to him as well. He's in Santa Rita jail. And then just help spread the word of this case, really. If you can reach out to independent media, kind of the same way we do with Julian Assange. If you can reach out to independent media, or if you can reach out to other organizations, we're trying to get Amnesty International or Amnesty Mexico. If you could get even like some Mexican press, we've had some local Mexican news cover the story, which I'm very grateful grateful for. And please do, like, don't be shy. I know me and Steve are gringos here, but like I can speak Spanish, and another person who runs the Free X account can as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out for us if you're a local Mexican journalist and you just so happen to be watching this and you have sympathies for this. There's the address to write for him, and really just help participate in the tweet storms tonight, 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. EST, and that's what I can think of for now. Steve?
Yeah, no, just keep your eyes on the social media accounts. Go ahead and bookmark freecommanderx.org. All of the updates that we have will go through that website, the Free Commander X Twitter, and is there an IG for that now? I think there is.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is an IG for it.
So that, and then Anonymous Bites Back. Every time we have an update, we'll go live through ABB. Also Slow News Day, but we're trying to put most of this out on as many platforms as humanly possible. If you are so inclined, talk to your friends about this. Talk to your family about this. This is stuff that we are all potential political prisoners now. All of us. We have pre-crime in this country. There's a pre-crime division in the FBI. The FBI now, the Department of Justice, rather. The Department of Justice is spending at minimum $77 million per state to have coordinated pre-crime centers so that your social media can be scoured to see if you ever said anything untoward that will get you put on some list that will make you a potential threat vector. You, just for having an opinion that falls outside of the narrative, unless you are playing ball for the state 100% of the time, you are now a potential domestic terrorist. So what has happened to X? What has happened and what is happening to X and Julian Assange and a number of other incarcerated political prisoners is all of our fate if we don't come together to stop this shit. This is untenable. And whatever personal disagreements anyone's had with X or with Julian or with me, none of that shit matters right now. Yeah. I'll link arms and march with people that I have shit talked over this right now.
I'd love to.
Yeah, because it's more. It's not about the person. It's about all of us. We're all susceptible to this. So if you stand up for this, you're standing up for yourself. You're standing up for people you care about. Because like what my two great guests just said, we're all susceptible here. If we know too much, if we have a political opinion that the predator class thinks is dangerous, they can target you and come after you. Gloria and
And
Steve.
are. And currently are. Like, and I'm not trying to freak anybody out, Franco, but don't think for a moment that if you haven't espoused revolutionary sentiment, if you haven't advocated on behalf of somebody else who's currently persecuted, I'll stop sharing. I forgot about that. If if you've ever uttered a word in the digital space or have been to a protest, you are liable for this same fate. It's the possibility of that happening to you. What's happened to Commander X is now a very real possibility for your world. This is out of hand. And we got whatever we do, we got to work together to stop it. This is Jay Rorty, X's lawyer, so I'm gonna mute.
Okay, yeah, and real quick, while Steve is talking there, I actually wanted to play the video of kind of his message to us from the Santa Rita jail on Wednesday. He was able to have a video call facilitated by the jail with his sister, and this was just kind of the message that he wanted to give us. And this is in video edited by some supportive anons, obviously, but yeah, gonna share that here. Let me.
World that I was illegally renditioned from the nation of Mexico, where I had political asylum and where I was a humanitarian refugee. They removed me illegally from the country under cover of darkness. They made me sign numerous documents and they would not tell me what they were and removed me from the country. I am being held in solitary confinement. I am allowed 1 hour out of my cell every 48 hours. It's up to you to save my life.
Hearing that's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's hard to listen to.
It is. I mean, especially because like with this, I think of how much he was ready to start advocating for and how he was looking forward to being able to help even in a limited capacity, like how he was looking to help and just do what he thought was right, because he's very opinionated. Of course he has his imperfections. He's a human, and me and Steve have had disagreements with him on air, but at the end of the day, he's an old man and he's not in the greatest of health, and he's being held in solitary confinement, and he did do a lot to help a lot of people, and most of the people who worked with him can vouch for him in that. So I just want him, like Julian, I want them all out.
Same. Yeah, there's people on the comment section right now vouching for Commander X. But yeah, free Julian Assange, free Commander X, free Mumia, free all political prisoners. Steve Poikonen and Glory Jones.
And Craig Murray too. Sorry. It's so last minute, but Craig Murray just got one of his appeals rejected, and he's looking at an 8-month prison sentence right now for because what essentially is wrong with this case is they're trying to restrict court reporting and further restrict journalism, and it's especially tragic because he's one of Julian Assange's best friends. So wanted to bring up him too.
Thank you for bringing that up. And I also wanted to mention, like, another way that you guys can get help and get involved and get more information about this, everybody in the audience, is if you join the Discord, right? The Slow News Day Discord. They can get more information there and meet people, and maybe they can organize with people in their community there, people who they find that lives near them.
Absolutely. And we also have a free Commander X Discord server.
That as well.
And then this month is the Home Run for Julian tour. We are halfway through it. It's moving towards the West Coast. I believe today they were in Milwaukee. They will be in Minneapolis. And then on Wednesday of next week, Denver, Colorado. Saturday and Sunday of next week, Oakland, California, and San Francisco. Monday and Tuesday, Los Angeles. There's a final stop on the tour back in Washington, D.C. on July 1st. Franco, I'm going to be there. I hope to see you.
I'll be there.
I'm going to be here for for the remainder of the West Coast tour and the final stop again, because I'll be filming the whole thing, releasing it as sort of a companion documentary. Hopefully by the end of the summer, there's going to be a lot to cut together, and I've got a couple of different stories that I'm trying to tell through it. Definitely going to need a little bit of help with that. I'll probably have a secondary fundraiser next month for it. It's going to be a lot of freaking work. But get out into the streets. July 3rd, Julian Assange's 50th birthday. Glory Jones and I are going to be hosting an event in Los Angeles. Would really love to see you guys out in LA the weekend of the 4th of July. We are thinking about, and I haven't really made final plans on it, but trying to hijack or co-op somebody else's 4th of July event and flip that into a free Assange rally. I just talked to Pasta last night. We're going to try and do another panel thing as well. On the 3rd. It's time, y'all. It's time. Whatever it is you're concerned about, wherever your activism or advocacy lies, it all hinges on our ability to communicate these ideas and these messages to people who are unfamiliar with the situation, no matter what it is. And the only way we can do that is with a free press and a free and open internet. It doesn't matter what you think about these people. It matters what you think about your ability to do your activism. And if we don't have a free Julian Assange, if we don't have a free Commander X, our ability to
even
do this
if it
is
gets
gone.
to a free Barrett Brown, okay, because he's not exactly a universally loved figure, but guys, we have to support these people regardless of what we think, because they're humans.
I was talking to Barrett Brown earlier today. I have a lot of problems with Barrett Brown. He knows that. And we're talking because we have bigger problems that we have to fight together before we can delve back into sniping at each other.
Exactly, 100%.
I mean, yes, we have to. It's gone on for long enough. Okay. And like, I'm gonna say this, like, I'm only 20. I'm sick of this shit. Like, it's time. It's fucking
got
time.
that Murtaugh energy.
Before we close off here, Hunter Carranza and Mishka
Hunter,
thank you very much for the super raise. That's very much appreciated.
It's what, Franco?
Very much appreciated.
July 3rd,
always
Las
appreciated.
Vegas.
Yes, he did it. It's always appreciated.
It's always appreciated on Frank Analysis. And stay informed, everybody. Steve and Glory, thank you very much for coming on.